Obama laying out his case for trimming $4 trillion from the federal deficit over the next 12 years. The debate over how to address the unsustainable deficit is heating up in Washington, Wall Street, and state houses across the nation. Joining me now is the second-term governor of Indiana, Mitch Daniels. Governor, it's wonderful to have you on the program.
Always glad to see you, Maria.
So, Governor, the president laid out his case for deficit reduction this week. We heard from Paul Ryan. We're fast approaching the debt ceiling of just under $14.3 trillion. You were OMB director under President Bush, part of the team that instituted the Bush tax cuts, some of which the president wants to eliminate to raise $1 trillion in revenue. What's your take on this? What do we need to do or face to grapple with this deficit?
Maria, I don't know when I've been more disappointed in any presidential performance. I thought that at last the president was about to enter and maybe elevate this life and death debate that we must have in this country, and instead I think he set it back when we need unity around some new big changes. He was divisive and very partisan, and the content was worse than empty. I think he perpetuated a lot of the public misunderstanding. He said had nothing to say about Social Security, nothing new to say about Medicare, stand pat on Medicaid. We can't possibly begin to approach the changes that we need that will save the American dream and our economy on a basis like that. And I just am very, very regretful. We'd have been better off this speech had never been given.
So let's talk about that arithmetic. The entitlements, Medicare spending accounts for 12% of the federal budget. Congressman Paul Ryan's deficit reduction plan changes Medicare structure and turns Medicaid into block grants to states. So Indiana has more than 1 million people receiving Medicaid benefits. How would that work in your state?
It'd work a lot better than today. We'd be free of all the restrictions, all the mandates. You know, this is a matter of Washington saying we don't trust anybody else but our own bureaucrats to look out after the health care for low-income people. And it would, Mr. Ryan's plan, and by the way, this has been proposed by people in both parties a long time. Most governors of both parties would welcome the new flexibility to deal with health care situations which are different state to state, and you could cap the federal government's exposure. And we would gladly accept the challenge and the risk that we could do a better job with the available dollars.
You're really on the front lines of this budget squeeze happening across the country. Since taking office, you've paid down 40% of Indiana's debt, made some significant cuts to the size of government. What are the biggest or most painful challenges that still remain?
Oh, in our state, we're in pretty good shape. We were very careful not to overextend during the good times. We were, as you said, in the process of coming out of a fiscal problem. We've downsized the state government of Indiana in a way that I think it has us well positioned for the future. We have fewer state employees than we did in 1978. And this is not true everywhere, but as a rule, governors who live in the real world cannot print money, cannot borrow for now without limit from foreign investors, have proven that you can make change in a way that is not inordinately painful. And one day I hope Washington will emulate that.
And of course the people have bought into it, which is interesting. I mean, you look at yourself and other governors across the country making severe cuts, and the people recognize that it's tough, but something that's necessary. So you discontinued collective bargaining for state employees on your first day in office in 2005, an issue that garnered a lot of attention in Wisconsin, of course. What impact did the move have on Indiana's finances and on the incomes of Indiana's workers?
It had a positive impact on our finances. We've saved hundreds of millions of dollars by being able to effect reforms that would have not been possible under the previous agreement. More important to me, it has allowed us to improve the quality of service to Indiana citizens by changing things. Nothing really could be changed at all before without the permission of the union, which would never have been given. And so we get you in and out of a license branch in less than 10 minutes. We get your tax refund back to you in 16 to 17 days. We are constantly trying to improve service, and that was the biggest advantage. Incidentally, we shifted to a pay-for-performance system in Indiana state government, and now the best workers have had the biggest raises in state history. Those who were not pulling their weight have been encouraged to improve, or if they can't, to move on.
And of course, Governor, your profile has been rising recently, a book deal, an education policy speech in Washington in May. Will you be a candidate for president in 2012?
Don't know the answer to that, Maria, and I've got my attention firmly fixed on the next wave of reform in Indiana, which, as you mentioned, centers on education as well as maintaining our very strong fiscal position. Another couple of weeks to go in our legislative session, which I hope will end very successfully, and I know I owe an answer to a lot of people shortly thereafter.
Governor, it's great to have you on the program. We'll be watching your developments in the near term. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you soon. Governor Mitch Daniels joining us. Up next on